Welcome to Typecasting, where we're typing our favorite fictional characters on the Enneagram and taking on pop culture by the numbers. Oh my gosh, Lucas, I am Murjanatu, and season 2 is over.
I am Lucas Graydon, and this is the season finale.
It's not what I thought we were doing, but I love it. This is so crazy. Our little quarantine project. We have completed 2 full seasons and covered almost all of our favorite media. I mean, we still haven't done This Is Us, which was like one of the reasons I think we started
Which was
doing
the
this.
reason, yes.
But you know what? If you want it out there, we'll do a little side mini-sode.
Yeah, we can always throw something out in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, this literally started because we were trying to type the Pearsons, and we were like, I don't know if you can. Like, they change a lot. I have my own personal opinions. But speaking of 2 full seasons, season 2 was almost twice as long as season 1. Like,
that is crazy.
It's been a marathon. It's been so much fun.
It's been so much fun. I mean, like, when we started this, I was in Arkansas. Like, remember our first logo of our first podcast had Indiana and Arkansas, and I'm living in Chicago. You're about to move to London. It's crazy, and I'm so happy we've done this. So thank you guys, everyone at home, for listening and being on this crazy journey with us. I know we keep it pretty like technical when we talk mostly about the media, but this has been like such a great way to spend our quarantine and be with you guys.
Yes, thank you so much for anybody who's ever decided to press play on one of these episodes. It means a lot. We are so happy to have you here. And I am so excited. I mentioned this last week. I think I saved my favorite Avatar character, maybe 2 of my favorite Avatar characters, for the second installment. So I'm extra excited for the characters that we're typing today.
Absolutely. And we are going to do a season 3. It's also going to be a short season like season 1 is. Stay tuned through the rest of the episode. We're going to tell you, we're going to have a fun little like surprise announcement at the end.
So where to begin?
Where to begin? I know, you're totally right, Lucas. These are some of my favorite characters as well. I did have a hard time typing them because I felt like I was like going in circles with a lot of them, and I just was like, oh, what is going on here? But we're talking about some of the best characters of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the periphery. Well, like they're on the characters.
Peripheral. Yes.
Yeah, I just kept going. I got stuck on the R. Characters, I like, if the other ones are the golden, this is the silver trio. Iroh, Zuko, and Toph. I'm so excited. Toph was my favorite when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I loved her. Growing up, though, as a grown-up, she was kind of annoying to me. And Katara is like so much more who my personality was. It wasn't even like, oh, like I think that I would like, you know, I'm like Toph. I was like, I'm such the older sister, like bossy, a little like, you know, I don't like using the word bossy for little girls, but I was like that. You know what I mean? It was much more like Katara. So I'm like, I don't know why I was so obsessed with Toph, but she's cool.
You are very much like Katara, because I remember when you were watching this last year for the first time, when I was like, okay, you have to rewatch Avatar. And you were like, I do not like Toph. You were like, I remember her being so cool. And now I'm like, and I think it is that like different perspective of the age. Like when imagining like trying to be a guardian of Toph, she is like such a firecracker that she would be very hard to wrangle.
And it's just so funny because when I watched the show in real time, Katara and Zuko were older than I was, or Zuko were older than like that whole like. And now, and like Sokka was older than and now it's like so weird to see it in retrospect. And now I'm like significantly older than them.
Yeah.
That is crazy town.
Something else I think is really interesting about all 3 of these characters. Toph specifically doesn't even show up until like episode 6 of season 2. But even though we have Zuko and Iroh from the very first episode, I don't think we really get to know either of them as characters until the last 2 seasons either.
I know.
And, I was just going to say, I think Zuko is one of the best redemption arcs in any form of media ever.
I think so too. Let's dive in. Let's dive in.
Okay.
So our first character is Zuko. And Lucas, I think you're completely right. Zuko has such an amazing character arc and redemption. And they have that slow build. We stick with him. Like, it just takes a while. Because the reason, like, you were telling me to rewatch Avatar, but then also, like, TikTok was talking about it. And all I remembered from Zuko was, like, him not being cool. Like, I remembered that he, like, was good in the end. But I just love the flashbacks and understanding more of his backstory and watching him come to terms with the Fire Nation not being an absolute good. Even though he's been a victim of it himself, it took him until he was away from it and getting to see it. Oh, he is brilliant to me. And beautifully written character. And it's so funny because I sometimes would get him confused with like Rufio. I was like, where are the Lost Boys? Because they have the same voice from the movie Lost.
It's the same actor.
He's also
Hook,
like
right?
in Jake the Dragon.
Oh yeah, Jake. Yeah,
In
American
Hook,
Dragon or Jake Long.
Something.
Is that it? I
Jake
didn't
Long
watch it, but
right. Yeah. No, we watched it. And so anyway, it's just he's such a great character. And I love watching all of the little details. Like TikTok's just brought so much up to like how everyone was educated about what the Fire Nation was in the Fire Nation versus like Aang, who actually lived through it, and like Zuko like coming to terms with it. And he doesn't just like turn a new leaf. Like he has that slow build. And I love his relationship with Iroh, which we'll get to in a minute. But I think he's a really great character. And I'm really interested to hear what your Enneagram type is, because I had two that were like diametrically opposed. So I'm really interested because I think the build probably contributed to that.
For sure. He's such a different character, like, or he presents very differently, like beginning to end. I have two numbers that are right next to each other. So
interesting. I'm so interested.
I have this third number that's like just starting to form at the back of my head. I think I just need to leave it be.
I wonder if that
we'll
one's
see what
mine.
happens.
Okay.
So my first thought was Zuko was a type 4 because he is a moody king. Like this man has so many emotions and does not know what to do with them. Like when I think of like a moody 4, overly, he's very sensitive. Like from a young age, we see that he was a very like sensitive and emotional kid. And he obviously has a lot of that like beat out of him by his father and by Azula, who, I love Azula, but that girl needs some professional help.
She does need professional help.
But I just saw like a lot of kind of the stereotype maybe of type 4 in Zuko. However, in I think his motivation, the type that I was most drawn to was the type 3, because I think he wants more than anything the approval of his father, especially at the beginning. Like he has to learn to overcome that. But I think his real stumbling block from the beginning of the series is unlearning that need for approval. I had originally written down like 4 wing 3, 3 wing 4, and I couldn't decide between. And then I said, he doesn't want understanding like the 4 does. He wants approval. However, all of this is really rooted in, I think, early series Zuko. And I don't know how we see him grow. And when he does finally unlearn that and like let those like really unhealthy bonds of his family go, if we still see, the other side of the type 3 in Zuko as the later series. So those are my 2 numbers, but I could be convinced of others. So I want to know what 2 you were between.
So I started off with, I thought he was a 6 who had a really hard time emerging from his like hard situation. Like I think he was weirdly loyal to his father when he didn't need to be, right? I thought like his whole life he was just trying to prove something, and he was like, and I think you could see some anxiety there, and not in how he was cautious, but like how brazen he was. And so that's when I was like, I think I'm just trying to convince myself he's a 6 because I think he's like incredibly misunderstood. And then I went to the 4 because I was like, I was thinking of his childhood as well and how his sister just understood her father so much more than he ever could. And he was, you know, the quote unquote rightful heir to the Fire Nation. He wasn't going to get it, right? Because that was not what his father wanted. And he felt like no one could really see him. And he like chose to prove his worth throughout the entire like seasons 1, 2, and really like up to like 3. Like, cause he stumbles. Like he's not like, you know, all of a sudden good. And he also is so moody. And I was thinking about the episode when they're on the beach and everyone's just like accessing their feelings. And he is very, that's my favorite episode.
It's like all honestly. The Fire Nation kids go to therapy. It's like they all just like talk about their feelings.
Yes. And Zuko is so interesting in that because he's with all of these women. And I love how the show like plays with like gender stereotypes. I just like feel like there aren't any really, but he's like listening and like empathizing with each person. He does like talk about himself a lot and like bring things back to him because that's how he like sees the world. But I think for like this kid who grew up in the Fire Nation, should have been given like the whole Fire Nation and then gets it taken away from him. He's really good at accessing his emotions and having empathy for others. And it's so funny to me that he like loves May, who has like no emotions whatsoever. Yes. I can never decide how I like do love them together. I think it's just like funny, but I also like get that everyone wants him and Katara to be together. Okay, I see them both.
I do. I do see them both. I want to shout out to one of my favorite May moments is when she and Ty Lee like turn on Azula at the prison and like realize that Azula like has never respected them, and they finally like stand. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
Speaking of May.
The thing about speaking of May, no, and that is so good. Have you seen the sidebar? Have you guys seen the theory that Ty Lee is of airbending descent?
Oh, I haven't.
Because if you noticed, she has the very round eyes. And like I always, when I would watch a show, I was like, why is she drawn different than everyone else? And she's so like flexible and like always at the wind or whatever. She's very like in tune, and she like has this like she's peace comes more naturally to her than like you know the Fire Nation does. And I think that it's like supposed to be like on purpose, but I haven't finished Korra, so if it comes back, it's like definitely possible, but I don't know.
As soon as you said that, I can see the airbender spirit in her. Like she has, like you said, like she's with the wind. Like she is like, she's like, oh, I'm just going to be a part of the circus until like Azula burns the circus down. But like, like the way that the air people were nomads and were just like out living up in the clouds, like I can see that lifestyle suiting her. That is interesting.
And like flexible, I like and how flexible she is.
Yeah.
So it's just like I'm pretty sure I saw it on TikTok, so I want to know what everyone thinks. I'm like, it's like canon in my mind, but I understand that. If it's not. And again, like I said, I know that there's some like more history in Korra. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Anyway, all that to be said, I think Zuko's a 4-3, because I think he has a lot of emotions and he's constantly trying to prove himself, to his father and to everyone around him. But I do think personally, I hear what you say, but I do think like him being known and understood is so important to him. And that's why he has that beautiful connection with Iroh and then eventually the gang, you know? I think that's really excellent and it's really well done, and he's such a cool character, and he definitely like deserves his fandom, unlike Draco.
Yes, honestly, literally exactly what I was thinking about when I said that Zuko had like a great redemption arc, because you know who doesn't have a redemption arc and who didn't need one? It's fine. Sorry.
It's fine.
Sorry, Malfoy stands. Also, speaking of the beach episode, I love the way you say he is like talking about himself and like connecting the dots of like other people's feelings and experiences to his own to process them, like, and to use that as a source of empathy. Like as a type 4, that is very much the way that I process other people's feelings and experiences, is how can I connect that to like things that I have experienced, that I can feel that for the other person. So I mean, that sells me right there. But also, like, the Wing 3, like I said, I was between the two, is so strong in, I think, just his work ethic. Like, he is so persistent in his pursuit of the Avatar. Like, his dad tells him, like, leave, go find the Avatar, and he refuses to give up. Like, he will do anything that it takes and is just like on this wild goose chase, but he doesn't care because he knows if he keeps going, he's going to find the Avatar someday. And as a Wing 5, like, that, I don't have that work ethic. Like, I see he has your work ethic, not mine.
Yeah, I was like your resident Wing 3 here.
Yes.
Yes. Well, it's like, it's different, right? But anyway, yeah, I think so. I think that he has that as well. And I think he's I'm like very proud to be the same Enneagram type that Zuko is.
I know. I wonder if we're just a little biased, because I am more than happy to bring Zuko into the 4 club.
I know. I was trying to see if like any of those like Instagram people do it, and I saw 1-8, but I don't think that. I think he is hurt and he has a lot of anger, but I don't think that's really where he's at. I don't know about you, but anyway, I could totally see him going to 1, like in growth, like learning like how to be accepting, and then I don't know if he's necessarily a 2, and he's not, and he's in stress.
Yeah.
But his like job is to attack the Avatar, and maybe he's like clinging to his dad because he needs that. So I think that's fine. We're good. I love it. Okay. Oh my gosh, because who's our next character?
So it's so funny. I said, oh, these 3 have like one of my favorite, maybe 2 of my favorite characters. And then I initially was thinking Zuko and Toph. And then I was like, wait, no, Iroh, these are all 3 like my favorite. Like, I love Iroh so much.
You have serious Iroh energy. You are going to be Iroh when you grow up.
That is
for sure.
Not only the highest compliment I've ever received, but also like such a goal of mine. Like, I have said before, I can't wait to be old and just like relax and like have my little library and my like, I would love to be Iroh when I grow up. Ugh.
I think you will.
He is Zuko's uncle. Like you said, he is one of the few people in the Fire Nation that sees Zuko and sees Zuko's pain and gives him a space to process that pain. A lot of times Iroh is in this situation where he is inviting Zuko to share his feelings and Zuko doesn't know how. And so he is like, no, shut up, you like crazy old uncle. Like, and he's very philosophical. He sometimes says things that don't make sense at first glance. He has a lot of like kind of out there sayings and things like that, but he's really very wise. He is actually betrayed and surpassed by his brother Ozai to get the throne, because Iroh is the older brother and was the rightful heir to the Fire Nation. And after his son dies, Ozai convinces their dad to give him the throne because he has heirs and Iroh doesn't. And Ozai obviously sucks, but Iroh has this humility and like he holds no resentment. Like, as a person, I feel like he just takes it in stride.
Which is so interesting because he also believes in peace. And I would hold serious resentment for the fact how terrible the Fire Nation went. But I don't like, I would love a double click on Iroh's story because you see him being a Fire Nation leader at like in a warrior general standpoint. And then we also see him, you know, kind and that he believes in the White Locust. And we don't really get to see that bridge. And I'm really curious, like, when that happened. And the other thing is, I just wanted to like say is like, we don't really know how Ozai convinced his father, because the grandfather also dies like the day after he says that he can be. So I'm like, I think there was something shady going on. Like, I don't even know like who was there, who saw it happen.
Disappears the same night. I mean, that whole deal was.
What happened? Did we get closure on that?
It's in the comics. It's in the comics. You need to read the comics. It's so good.
I will.
Yes. The answer to Zuko's mother, no spoilers, is in the comics.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Cool.
But yeah, I think that's a good point to point out that like we meet Iroh in old age, like when he is very much a mentor to Zuko, but he was a infamous Fire Nation like general, and he is one of the strongest firebenders, but we rarely see him resort to any sort of physical violence or bending. Like he is always about sitting down and talking before anything comes to blows. He loves Pai Sho and tea. I love how he just like wants his little tea shop in Ba Sing Se. Like he is more than happy to just be in hiding, which I do think is interesting. Again, like when you talk about like he's driven to peace, but like coexisting inside of the Fire Nation, and then even just like, okay, we're just going to live in hiding from the Fire Nation. All very interesting. What do you think his type is?
So part of the reason why I was like, I really want to bet, this is the hardest one for me for sure. I think when we see him in the series, he has a lot of 9 energy. As you said, like he wants to just have his little tea shop. And part of me thinks the fact that he like lives in the Fire Nation and he has conflict with it, but he doesn't like go up against his brother. And he seems to be okay with the fact that his brother is the heir, even though he resents the way the Fire Nation is led. Like, I don't care. I am a strong advocate for what the opposite of what the Fire Nation did. I don't know what that is. Like, I would say I'm an advocate for peace. I would not rest until, like, if one of my brothers chose to do that, like, I would always fight him. I would be there. I'd be counseling him. Like, I would not be just like hanging out. And he like plays the long game and he's very strategic and he knows what he's doing. Ends up being a huge asset. I just personally would never have done that. And that's why I think he's a 9. I also saw a lot of like 5 in him. I saw like how calculated he is, how he loves to play his games, and like his old adages, his wisdom. Like his wisdom. And I just was not even sure, like, and that's again, like his root was really complicated. So I'm really interested to hear what you think on like why he does the things he does. Like, is he being strategic and playing the long game? Or is he hiding away from his fears and the rejection? And he does lose his son. Like, are they outside of Ba Sing Se for 80 years or whatever it is because they can't get in, or because he was a general and he didn't want to take it over, right? Because he was like on the walls of Ba Sing Se for I don't remember how long it was, but a very long time, to the point where he's kind of mocked for it. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Like, so those are things that I was like, I want more information, but I was between the 9 and the 5, so I'm really interested in what you want to say before I select one.
Yeah, the 5 did not occur to me, but I think you have a good argument for it. But that was just because I was very much like sold on the 9 as soon as I started thinking about him. Like, I think he has so much of the beautiful parts of the 9 in his ability to like observe, like see every perspective. Like he sees every side, even if he doesn't agree with it. And also in that ability to sit back, even when he maybe like shouldn't, like you're saying, like maybe he should, but I think that is a great question about like, is he playing the long game and strategizing and like pulling the strings behind the scenes? Because I could see an argument to be made that he, not only does he see Zuko and like take Zuko under his wing from an emotional like standpoint and from a nurturing standpoint, but I think also knowing that like brash action against his brother will just get him thrown into jail and like kill the revolution before it happens. Nurturing and like leading and bringing Zuko into his full potential, he knows, I think, is like his greatest asset in like restoring balance. But I personally don't think he's that calculated. Like, I don't think I think he is investing in Zuko more from an emotional standpoint than he is from like a tactical standpoint.
I wonder though too, like how much of the white locust, that's what they're called.
Lotus.
Locusts are freaking beetles.
They're the bugs. Yeah, they're the like plague.
I knew that. That was my dyslexia going out loud. Oh my gosh, I said it like 4 times already. Okay. The white lotus. I'd be interested to hear how much the white lotus takes part throughout the entire series. Like, is he asking them, you know, every time they land and they're getting supplies, is he talking to someone, asking them for wisdom? Does he know about things going on behind the scenes that we don't as viewers? Or is he, because I think he could do both. I would just be curious to know what it is, and what his part is there. But I don't know. And so it's just one of those things where I'm just going to like accept it. And like, but I think it matters between if he's a 9 or 5. So I could see if he was a 5, I would give him I probably give him a wing 4, because like accessing those emotions and being able to see everyone's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
If he was a 9, I don't know what I would give his wing. Maybe a 1 because of the wisdom.
I gave him a 1. I gave him a 1 wing. I think just because he does have, I think, a clear sense of right and wrong. I think he does have a clear understanding of his worldview. And I also don't see the 8 in him. Like, I think he was raised, if like we gave the Airbending Nation like the tentative type 9, like kind of as a culture. Like, I think if you gave the Fire Nation like the type 8 as a culture, like he was taught how to firebend. He was taught how to access his inner fire. But oh my gosh, I'm even just thinking about like he invented lightning bending. He is the one who learned how to bend lightning from studying the water tribe. Like, I think that is such a type 9 thing to do, of like, I am going to like observe and see the value in these other ways of life and like learn how to apply that in myself. But you look like you're going to say 5.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that argument, when you said, up until you said the number 9, I thought you were going to say 5, because it's like to study and understand and channel something else. I don't feel that strongly. It's just more for the argument being like,
that's funny.
It's also, that is very a 5 thing in my opinion as well. So it just depends on what his motivation was. And we just don't have that. Yeah.
I think that his temperament in general is more 9. 5s are like, I think a little bit more reserved. They're not always like going out of their way to meet new people. Whereas like, I think Iroh is like looking to make friends and like take care of everybody he meets. And specifically, one of the reasons we paired these 3 characters together is because I love Iroh's relationship with Toph. And like when Toph is feeling isolated and separated from the group and she meets this random old man in the woods, like they strike up this friendship. She finds him very easy to talk to. Like he provides wisdom and guidance to her in a way that I think like 5s will often hold themselves closer to their chest until they like get to know somebody and like let them into their mind palace in that way. So I see the openness more of the type 9. And you look like you're frozen.
I guess I didn't know that about
don't know
if
you're
completely honest. Oh, my internet connection.
You're frozen. You look very mad at me.
Oh, now
I see you. Now I see you.
I was going to say, yeah, I guess I didn't necessarily know that, but they are like, I guess they are isolated and secretive. So yeah, I guess I'll give him the 9. I'll give him 9 wing 1. I think that's like a very good, I think it was just a hard one. And like I said, if maybe there's a comic or a book that talks about Iroh's journey specifically, I would love to just hear his motivations a little bit more, because I don't think we have them enough to do that. But I think 9 wing 1 is good, given the context that we see, like you said, in his nature.
I'm thinking of a very similar character. And I don't want to say who it is, because I think we'll talk about them in the future.
Okay.
That is similar to Iroh, but I see leaning more to the 5 than the 9. And I've not actually typed this character yet, but I like, that's all I'll say for now.
Interesting. Okay. I'm here for it. Who is next? So let's confirm the 9 wing 1 and talk about my childhood favorite. Which is so funny. I just like can never get over it. We're going to talk about Toph now. Because again, I also like love water so much. So I just am like, why did I like, I don't know. I did as a child, especially love like people. I loved the idea of like learning the world without being able to see or hear or like, and I loved how she used her abilities to do that. Like I would like always go in the woods barefoot. Like that was my goal.
Yes.
Was to like I would just like I don't know,
feel nature.
To feel nature, and Toph does that, and so I feel like maybe that's why I liked her. I don't know.
The animation style, also, I just have to say, is gorgeous. Like those are some of my favorite scenes in the whole show. Are when she like sends it's black and white and it sends the ripples out, and she sees. Oh, I rewatched so cool. The Blind Bandit before this, like her first episode where they meet her fighting in the tournament. And the earthbending scenes, just so much of the fight choreography in this show is so much better than it should be. Like, it's so good.
Fight choreography is very, like, I think I might have said this in the Marvel seasons, episodes. I do not understand how it works. Because in my mind, I'm like, the director's like, just have at it, have fun. And it's like great, especially when they're animated. I'm like, how do you think about that? Like, I could literally never like think it out in real life and make it interesting to look at.
I don't know the specific forms of martial arts, but I do know that each type of bending is based in a different martial art. And so like the movement of the bending, like not only the fight choreography, but then like actual, just the way that each of the benders moves is like rooted in a different ancient art and culture, which I just love the attention to detail, even like that far behind the scenes in this show. Oh, so good.
Oh, it is. It is so good. So Toph is our I'm trying to think. She's she's an aristocrat. Don't know if she has a title. And her parents are like, our poor Toph is blind and she can't do anything and she has to stay under supervision 24/7 and they do not allow her to have any independence. So she like channels all that energy because she is an earthbender. And she is the blind bandit and she like fights huge grown men. I mean, she's probably a 12-year-old girl. And she fights them in earthbending and is like one of the best earthbenders of all time. And at the age of 12, invents metal bending.
Yeah.
Which is just, she's amazing. A very, very talented young woman. Also a firecracker. Has a lot of personality, a lot of spunk. I would love to just like, I wish we got more of her with her family. Like, I was like, how did she keep her personality under wraps? Like, how did they not know who she was?
Yeah.
She's so like that. So, and she is one of the late joiners of the gang and joins them on their mission and trains Aang in his earthbending, which is super fun. And she ends up just being a good pal. And I know that stuff happens with her and Korra too, but again, we're not covering that, but I know something's going to happen. Anyway, so there's that.
So when I sat down to type Toph, I was like, okay, she's obviously an 8. I think she has a lot of bravado and a lot of like maybe spiky exterior. Like she's not afraid of confrontation at all. Like she and Aang get into their, like when Aang is trying to convince her to come with them and teach them metal bending and he's about to spill their secret at dinner, she is like pushing his chair into the table to like get him to shut up. And she just like, I think really puts her whole self forward when she meets somebody. And she's just like, and she is, I'm going to be out here. She's very like, she's braggadocious. Like she enjoys being the best earthbender in the competition and in the tournament. She's like, come on, like who's going to take me on? I love that
she's 12. Oh my gosh.
I love that she calls Aang Twinkle Toes. Like she just has
Why
these
did
like,
she do that?
Well, I think because when they first fight and they don't know that he's the Avatar, she's like, where'd you go? Somebody's light on their feet. And then she like starts calling him Twinkle Toes because he's like bouncing up and around. Yeah. But I do probably still think 8 because I think that she keeps a lot of her tenderness and her vulnerability hidden. However, thinking a little bit about metal bending, but also just her as a character, like I think, and it's funny, you were just talking about reading up about type 5s being kind of like isolated and secretive. Like I kind of wonder if she has some type 5 where she, and talking about like how she's able to like keep her whole self kind of hidden from her parents and just like have this space outside and like kind of live in her own world in her own head when she needs to. I think that's interesting. I hadn't given it a ton of thought, but it just like, and the 5 and the 8 are connected on the arrow of stress and security. So I wonder how she may move along that, but it just popped up at the end there. So I just wanted to shout it out too.
Wow, that's so interesting. No, I think I actually did consider the 5 because, but I also, then I thought about her, like it was one of my first like initial thoughts. I think Earth and I think 5. Like I don't know what the connection is.
Well,
like,
and Boomy says like find somebody. I'm so glad you said this. I couldn't remember where the 5 came from. Boomy, when he is sending Aang to find his earthbending teacher, says you need to find somebody who waits and listens before they respond. And like Aang sees how Toph takes in the whole world and is always listening and is always observing before she chooses her next move. And that's how he knows that like she's supposed to be his teacher. And he sees a vision of her in the swamp or whatever. But that's exactly the quote that I was like, okay, how does this fit into Toph's character? And that is what brought me to the 5. So sorry to hijack that, but yes.
No, because I was going to say, like, I'm not sure why, but like that was my gut reaction. And because I didn't have a lot of evidence for it, I did go to the 8 because there's just like a lot more. I do, again, she's a kid and we really don't, in real life, we don't type anyone in real life. But like, I do not believe in typing children. I would love to see where things shake out, but I love the idea that she's a 5 with a wing 4 and her like being braggadocious and being over the top and so true to herself. A lot of it is like, you know, for that like seeking attentions that 4 you sometimes do, but it's also like a front because we know she has real emotions and like gets frustrated by things. And I think we see it in the episode where they're in the desert and she can't see anything because the sand is like, it's too loose. And she just gets so frustrated and disappointed and like very in her emotions in her head. And I think the joke she puts on very like 4 to me. So like the moodiness. And I think that I could totally like, I think I convinced myself of 5 wing 4, especially with that note on what Boomy said.
And I'm thinking too about like the 5's need for self-sufficiency. I forget who we were talking about. Like, I think with Katniss talking about like 5's not wanting to rely on anybody else. And I think that she learns from a really young age how to never rely on somebody else, even though her parents are coddling her and they only see her as a blind, helpless child. She learns a brand new way to see the world. And she like similar to how you were saying, like, oh, Iroh discovering like bending lightning through your stomach is very kind of like the type 5 and learning and innovating. But I think she also like from a young age innovates and uses her skills of observation and develops a new way to see the world so that she doesn't have to rely on anyone. And like to me that very much connects to the core of the type 5 as well.
No, I totally think so. I love it.
I'm so glad we got there. I'm glad you had thoughts because I was like, wait, I feel this, but I don't know why. So thank you for helping me. Like,
this is one of the hardest episodes for me because I felt like, and I was telling Lucas does this every episode. Lucas does like a ton of research and like spends a lot of time with them. And I usually choose to either decide their numbers and find evidence or like look at the evidence and like decide like the moment of. But when you do research, there's so many more numbers that come up. So I was like, okay, this one was hard for me.
This is why I used to come with like 6 numbers for every single character.
I know, I was like, okay. Just because you can make it work doesn't mean you should bring it to the table. Oh my gosh, so funny. So anyway, so it's very exciting. Lucas, are you ready to give out our brand new news?
I have been trying to think of the best way to like announce it, and the only thing I can think is this is gonna be so bad. Do 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 do. Ah! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like thinking about the fact.
Harry, once I make this me. I don't know the lines. I don't know the words.
No, you can't.
What? What's happening?
He's going to sacrifice himself.
Harry Potter, Harry Potter, Harry Potter.
Not me. Not
boy.
Hermione. You.
You. The mouth you had to make to say the you. It's all like I have big ups. You can see it happening.
Were you just referencing, that's my boy, because that is a tragedy, and I will get emotional.
I watched the funniest TikTok where this guy was like, I like to think of Cedric's dad as just a really supportive dad who's just really not understanding what's going on. And so he's like, oh, he's winning the maze. That's my boy. That's my son.
No.
Like, cheering him on. And I thought it was funny. But I haven't seen the movies in a long time. So, you know, this is going to be fun.
One of our best friends named his dog Diggory because he wanted to be able to say, that's my boy. which is a very cruel joke, but also very funny. I didn't even realize it. I am actually wearing a Harry Potter Deathly Hallows shirt right now.
That. The thing is, I wish I was more impressed, but like 80% of your clothes are fan.
I was just gonna say it was just a numbers game. It was where I'm literally sitting in front of my homemade display case for my Harry Potter collection, because Harry Potter is like the number one pillar of my personality, and I have not been able to talk about it for 2 seasons of this podcast. So,
oh my gosh,
when we come back,
if you thought he knew Marvel, wait till we get to Harry Potter. Okay. So after our break, which is 2 weeks long, we're going to dive in and we're going to start. I don't know if we should announce who we're starting with. What do you think? Let's announce it on the Instagram.
Yeah, we'll save that. We'll save that. Follow us at Typecasting Pod on Instagram.
Absolutely. And we cannot wait to see you there or hear you there or however you listen.
Hear you there at Hogwarts. Although you can't listen at Hogwarts because Muggle technology won't work. So you'll have to.
That is such a weird
head out to the grounds.
Okay. See you there.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Typecasting. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at TypecastingPod, where you can vote in our weekly polls. Leave a review and be sure to join us next week when we take on more pop culture by the numbers.